Welcome, focused learners. Today, we're tackling a massive challenge facing modern digital publishers. In this explainer, our goal is highly specific. We're going to break down exactly how to build a reliable, highly structured AI content workflow from the ground up. And we're going to do it in a way that never, ever sacrifices your editorial quality. We are not just talking about basic prompt engineering here. No, we're talking about building an entire digital newsroom, a system that reliably gets your content 95% of the way to publication efficiently and effectively.
To pull this off, here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with the AI content dilemma, define our quality standards, gather workflow inputs, build out a multi-agent pipeline, run our content through an editorial gauntlet, and finally, wrap up with scaling your system. Let's get right to it.
Section 1. The AI content dilemma. To build or not to build? So you might be asking yourself right out of the gate, is an AI content system actually worth the effort to build? It's a completely fair question, because leaning on AI definitely comes with risks. Let's be real, a single standard prompt just won't cut it anymore. Search engines are aggressively ignoring generic AI slop. You know the stuff. Commodity content with zero real value. Just asking an AI to write a blog post introduces a massive risk to your brand search visibility. But a robust, purposeful system, well, that's a game changer. That allows you to maximize your resources and pump out high-level content that you otherwise just wouldn't have the bandwidth to produce.
Okay, let's dive into this, because this idea perfectly captures the core philosophy of our entire workflow today. The hardest part really isn't getting the AI to produce an article. The hard part is figuring out what that finished article actually needs to look like. If you're building a system, you absolutely have to work backward. You have to define what good looks like first, and then build the workflow and the inputs that can reliably get you to that exact standard.
Section 2. Defining your quality standards. Working backwards.
To figure out what that finished article looks like before we even touch a single AI tool, we need a strict checklist. This right here is what prevents your output from turning into commodity slop. Your pipeline must produce useful, original content that matches your brand voice precisely. It needs to be genuinely helpful to your ideal customer profile. It has to accurately describe your business offerings without any weird hallucinations, sound distinctly human, and be formatted with high ranking and citation potential in mind. If your output consistently hits all these marks, you've got a successful pipeline on your hands.
Section 3. Essential workflow inputs. Constants versus variables.
Now, to hit those high standards, we need the exact right ingredients, and we categorize these into constants and run-specific imports. Think of constants as your brand's DNA. This is the permanent context hard-coded into every single run you do. This includes your brand explainer, the pain points of your ideal customer profile derived from actual sales calls, sitemap export so you don't accidentally duplicate existing content, and your original internal research. On the flip side, the run-specific inputs are your variables. These are what you change every time you hit start, so the target keyword, the topic, and the unique angle for that one individual post.
The absolutely crucial point here is how you define those constants, especially when it comes to your brand voice. The golden rule is show, don't tell. You need to provide concrete examples of your absolute best content right in your inputs. If your brand voice guidelines are just a list of vague adjectives, stuff like friendly but formal, your AI is just going to spit out generic output. It needs actual real-world examples of what your voice looks like in practice, and honestly, even examples of what to avoid.
Section 4. The multi-agent pipeline. Orchestrating your digital newsroom.
Listen, we aren't going to rely on one massive generic prompt to do everything. That's a recipe for disaster. Instead, we hire specialized AI agents for distinct roles, and we build this pipeline chronologically. It's kind of like managing a team of hyper-focused junior interns. First, you have the workflow kickoff, where you input your keyword and angle. That triggers the researcher agent to go out and gather facts. Then, the researcher's output becomes the vital input for the outliner agent. Once the outline is rock solid, it gets handed off to the writer agent. The output of one agent is the strict input for the next, making sure absolutely nothing gets skipped or confused along the way.
Let's zoom in on that researcher agent for a second. You don't just tell it, hey, go research this. No, you give it incredibly specific, strict instructions to generate a comprehensive dossier. You provide a list of reputable sources it's allowed to cite, and, just as importantly, a blacklist of sources to strictly avoid. You feed it your sitemap so it knows exactly what you've already covered, give it links to your first-party data, and lay out exact rules on how to analyze search engine results pages and AI overviews to identify missing gaps in the content.
Now here is a totally non-negotiable step, the mandatory human gate. After the outliner agent does its thing, a human must review that AI-generated outline. This is your first crucial human-in-the-loop moment. You want a solid sense of the finished piece before you burn through time and computational tokens on the actual writing phase. Based purely on how strong that outline is, a human makes the call to scrap it, revise it, or keep moving forward.
If the human approves the outline, it moves on to the writer agent. But to guarantee the writing is structured perfectly, you really need to feed the writer agent advanced logical frameworks. Two fantastic examples are BLUF, which stands for bottom line up front, and MEIS, mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive. By hard-coding these kinds of frameworks into the writer agent's instructions, you're basically ensuring the final content has a really strong logical narrative flow and doesn't just awkwardly repeat itself.
Section 5. The editorial gauntlet. Enforcing the standard.
Okay, this is arguably the most fascinating part of the entire workflow. Instead of asking one AI window to just fix everything, we split the editing process into 3 completely separate agents, running in 3 separate context windows. First up, the standard editor verifies style guide compliance, narrative structure, and basic logic. Next, the fact checker steps in to double-check stats. And finally, the AI editor focuses purely on phrasing. Running these passes separately creates vastly superior output, simply because each agent is hyper-focused on one single specific job.
Now, what's really interesting about this is the mandate for the fact-checker agent. It absolutely must be adversarial. You literally instructed this specific agent to assume that every single thing stated in the draft is dead wrong, a total hallucination, until it's proven otherwise. Its entire job is to aggressively attempt to disprove the article. This kind of hostile approach is honestly your best defense against AI hallucinations slipping through the cracks.
Then we have the AI editor. This agent ignores grammar, it ignores the narrative structure, and it ignores the facts. It acts as a dedicated, ruthless filter to strictly strip out that generic, robotic language we all hate. If you have personal pet peeves, or if you know a specific phrasing that acts as a dead giveaway for AI writing, you program this agent to hunt down those exact AI tells and strike them from your prose entirely.
And that brings us to the final human gate. Let's be crystal clear. You should never, ever publish something that hasn't been touched by a human. This incredible multi-agent pipeline is amazing. It will get your content about 95% of the way there. But a real human editor must review the final draft, make those vital last polishes, and carry the piece across the finish line before it ever gets uploaded to your content management system.
Section 6. Scaling your content system, future-proofing the workflow.
Once you've got this foundational system working reliably for a single content type, the long-term compounding value is just incredible, because you can simply bolt on new capabilities as you go. For example, you could add specialized agents purely for keyword and entity research before the kickoff step. You could add an agent that takes the finished blog post and automatically generates secondary formats, like a perfectly formatted LinkedIn newsletter. You could even integrate a process that automatically pulls your older posts and refreshes them with brand new stats. The possibilities are huge.
We're going to wrap up this explainer with a final, slightly provocative question for you to ponder. Your AI system can write the content, sure, but who is setting the standard? At the end of the day, an AI pipeline is only as good as the guardrails, the inputs, and the human oversight you build into it. It is entirely up to you to take total ownership of your brand's editorial governance. Build the system, define exactly what quality looks like, and then let the agents do the heavy lifting. Thanks for joining me today, Focused Learners, and I'll see you in the next explainer.